My name is Andrea Pennington. I'm an integrative physician, acupuncturist, best-selling author, and international speaker. My career in broadcast and digital media spans over 20 years. As past medical director for Discovery Health Channel, I've had multiple appearances on Oprah, Dr. Oz, and CNN, and my TED Talks have reached 2.5 million people. For the last several years, I've been helping other doctors, dentists, healers, and coaches from around the world to share their messages with global audiences through personal branding, publishing, online courses, and media training. And what makes this combination unique is that I am bringing my 20 years of expertise as a professional speaker and coaching other people on their TED-style talks. So I know what it takes to craft a keynote, a TED Talk, and even workshop presentations so that you communicate your message with confidence and clarity. Hello, hello, and welcome, beautiful soul. Welcome to Saturday. It is our 6th deep dive live business training. I'm so happy to see you here again. And if you're watching on the replay, welcome. Glad to have you. I am your host, Dr. Andrea Pennington, and today we are going to help you craft your irresistible sales offer. That's right, I'm going to give you a simple script that you can fill in the blanks, kind of like Mad Libs. Do you remember those when you were a kid, filling in the blanks? You can create a story, an invitation that will draw people to you. So very happy to see some of our folks returning. Welcome back, Frank. Glad that you are here. Trevor, you're in the US. Welcome. Shireen, very happy to have you here. And Carolina, welcome back. Awesome. Very, very glad to have you all back again. So, are you excited for today? I'm excited that you've shown up on a Saturday. Like, how awesome is that? So hopefully this means you have lots of time to really dig deep and get into how to create a sales offer. And this has literally been something that has helped me so much in my career, that using this exact formula for just sharing an offer is something that has brought me tens of thousands of dollars, like literally. I'm going to actually show it to you. This is not to brag. This is simply to show you that it is possible, all right? And all of this means you can have a sales conversation without it feeling slimy, sleazy, or salesy, all right? And definitely not pushy. Wonderful Shireen in the UK, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And good morning, Kim. Finished your workout, and now you are ready to dive in. Very good to have you all back here again. Hey, Shaf, good to have you here. So please have your worksheet ready, okay? The worksheet comes when you register for the replays. I give you links to download my slides and download my worksheets. You're going to need the worksheet today because it's fill in the blank. And yes, Trevor, Mad Libs are fun. I'm going to make sales fun for all of us. Hello, Fatima. Hola. Welcome. Watching from Peru. I love it. Welcome to the party. So for those of you who are just tuning in, I am Dr. Andrea Pennington, and this is the 6 days of live deep dive business training. On day 1, we covered your brand identity and what makes you special. Day 2 of our deep dive was all about nailing your niche. That means defining your ideal customer so that you can really speak to their heart. Deep dive 3 was all about outlining your intellectual property, and that is ideally what we're hopefully selling today after you go through today's workshop. Deep dive 4 was how to choose, test, and launch your first or your next product. Deep dive 5, this is yesterday. I went through the 3 keys on how to write and publish a book in 90 days or less. And yes, it's possible. I shared examples, so watch the replay if you haven't seen it yet. And today, as I mentioned, it is deep dive number 6. Let's craft your irresistible sales offer. Sound good? What? Yes, I'm very glad to have you back. Yes, it is unmissable in my opinion as well. If you are a soul-conscious coach, healer, light worker, entrepreneur, or you're aspiring to become an entrepreneur or a well-paid speaker, then these are the actual business techniques that I have used to grow my business 6 figures and beyond and to help my clients do the same thing. All with integrity, not becoming pushy, not becoming icky, and not shrinking and hiding. So you've probably noticed that with everything I'm talking about with this personal branding, it's all about increasing your visibility, but doing it in a way that feels comfortable to your heart and your soul. And so sometimes that means we've got to heal some of that past drama and trauma from childhood, myself included. Growing up in a dysfunctional family, it leaves its marks on us, but it doesn't have to trap you. And it means that we can reprogram our subconscious mind to get rid of that negative critic, to get rid of those limiting beliefs that hold us back from fully sharing our gifts with the world. So that is all of what I'm about. So if you're here just to make money or to puff up your ego, just, you can click off and go watch another video. Save yourself. What's up, Donna? How are you doing over there in Texas? Hey, and there is Gaga. Look what I'm wearing, Gaga. Representing. Gaga is one of our beautiful contributing authors to the top 10 traits of highly resilient people, and she created this beautiful thing. It's called a smiler, because even if you're feeling down, if you stick it in your mouth, it forces you to smile. So she is a beautiful author, one of our luminaries, and an incredible artist. And this piece of art here on the wall, that is by Gaga as well. So very glad to have people all the way from the top of the map in Iceland, which is where Gaga is from, and sprinkled throughout Europe, the UK, and the United States. So let's jump on in. Without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so my goal today is to provide you with a simple script to confidently enroll clients or sell your products without feeling slimy. I really want to show you how you can communicate the value of your offer and create an expectation of a successful experience in your potential client's mind. If I can show you how to do that, then you can confidently make more money, you can serve your purpose, and you can feel fulfilled and valued for the beautiful work that you do to serve, to heal, and to empower your clients. So what I've described to you, this idea of how to look at sales and branding and marketing, really does require some shifts. So today we're going to shift some of your thinking. So the first key to really making sales simple, it's almost like selling with serenity, is to look at your sales offer as an invitation. The sales offer is an invitation. And this requires a shift in perspective, because the biggest mistake that I see people make is that they push features, like how many videos or how many live sessions and how many PDFs and how many books you get in this bundle. Or they don't actually connect with the needs and the desires of the person. They're pushy. If sales is about grabbing and getting or pushing and coercing, then of course that doesn't feel good to you because it goes against your nature. If you're still following me, your nature is about love and compassion and sharing and collaboration, not about getting and taking. That's not your thing. So if it's all about grabby and gimme and trying to get rather than giving, then sales will feel slimy for you. And so when I'm asking you to shift your perspective, I'm asking you to shift from the idea of pushing features and instead look at sales as an invitation. You are inviting them to imagine, inviting them to see themselves getting success with you through storytelling. Now, this is a big thing for me, this storytelling thing, as opposed to sales. Now, I'm going to share a little something that happened to me when I was speaking on stage in Denmark. I was at this, okay, I'll tell you the name of the event. I was trying to protect the names. Anyway, I was in Denmark for this event called Elevate. And there was a speaker who is a multi-million-dollar speaker, author, coach, like super duper famous if you're into personal development and business coaching. This guy is really well known. And I was speaking the day after him, so I was sitting in the audience with some of my friends, and I just found myself shrinking because he was on stage and he was being so aggressive and he was saying, you got to do this. And if you're not doing this, then you're just a loser. I mean, it was the most aggressive sales that I just felt embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for him, embarrassed as an American, because afterward, people were coming up like, I heard someone, while they were getting their little shot of juice, saying, oh, those Americans with their sales tactics. And I'm like, I'm not like that. We're not all like that. But this guy was a super big name, and he's used to selling on stage and just making people feel like, if you want to be like me, a winner, then get my stuff. It was awful. But what you'll notice about me is I'm all about head and heart and soul. And one of the things that I did that really helped me with this whole idea of selling is I did the Conversational Intelligence Coaching Program with the late Judith Glaser. Judith wrote a book called Conversational Intelligence, CIQ, and her approach was brilliant because it included so much of the neuroscience of communication. I really believe that when we can bypass all of that bullshit detector that we all have, we all can kind of pick up if someone's being a fake, if someone's being pushy, if someone's dishonest. And if we can bypass that filter and connect from the heart, and dare I say, from the soul, you will find your sales conversations much easier rather than trying to convince people. That just sets off these little radars in our head that make us shut down. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea. And no, Anna, Gary is pretty intense, but it was not Gary V. It was someone else. But we're just going to leave it at that. All right. So let's go back to my slides. So do you understand now why I say I want you to shift your perspective? Instead of focusing on, making people feel bad or trying to, convince them, instead focus on the outcome. Focus on what they will benefit from so that they can start to imagine themselves with that increased confidence, with that support that you're going to provide. If it is that they're going to enjoy more ease and more self-acceptance, what you do is you make it an invitation. So a sales offer is an invitation. Make sense, everyone? Awesome. So if we move on now to key number 2. Oh, my iPad is freaking out. Hang on a second. We'll see what's up with good old Keynote on the iPad. All right. Voila. So key number 2 is a commitment to serve and transform. Now, again, this is going to require a shift in perspective for you. I want you to think of, rather than speaking from the ego, and shift into serving from your mission. It's your mission, I'm sure, to transform, to heal, to inspire, to uplift. See, the biggest challenge that we face is feeling small, feeling insignificant, feeling a little bit shy. Sometimes that is about low self-worth. Sometimes it's having a bad relationship with money that makes you feel like you can't ask. But all of that comes from the ego. And if those are your issues, then my friend, it is time for you to heal that. I have programs. Everything I do in my Global Luminary Academy, I'm not just working on your business mind, I'm also working on the psychological mind. I have programs completely for free that will help you reprogram your mind, okay? So if you visit AndreaPennington.com or MakeYourMarkGlobal.com, you'll see the 3 keys to becoming the hero of your life. And that life writing program will help you shift. If you do feel insignificant, if you feel like you've got low self-worth, if you do have a bad relationship with asking for money, then it's time that you heal that. So when we shift from your ego trying to get something or push something on someone, and then transform that into, you know what, this is about my commitment. I am committed to serve. And there's this saying among business people out there that if you know something, you have a moral obligation to share it, to serve people with that knowledge. And this takes me back to an event that I was at in the United States. I was the keynote speaker for this women's health conference, and I was sitting at this table over lunch, and I heard this woman talking about her struggle with an eating disorder. And the woman sitting next to me was the conference organizer. And she said, "Oh, I know exactly who you should call." And she started to tell this woman about this therapist. And I'm sitting there going, why isn't she telling her about me? Has that ever happened to you where you're like, hello, I can fix that problem too? Well, in that capacity, I was representing Discovery Health Channel. As the medical director and spokesperson, I was on stage still giving my health advice, but I was representing the network. And so in my bio, the woman who put on the conference, she didn't know that I was treating eating disorders in my wellness center. She didn't know about my trauma background. And I did make friends with her, and actually she was featured in this documentary series that I put out there that's on Gaia right now. We became friends, and I reached out to her to let her know, like, there's more to me than just what you've seen on Discovery Channel. And she said, you know what, I wish I had known sooner, because there was somebody at the conference, and I referred them to a certain therapist, and it was a nightmare. They didn't even understand where she was coming from. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have saved her that pain and that trouble. And it's the same with you. There's something that you're sitting on, the knowledge, the brilliance, the compassion within you. And if you don't share it, then there are people out there that are going to end up with less than ideal treatment, okay? If you don't share what you know, then people will likely go to someone else. And the other thing that really has kind of motivated me to look at the way I do business as service came from my mother. Now, many of you know my mother grew up in British Guyana, and she lost her mom when she was 10 years old. So I never knew my maternal grandmother. She died of complications from type 2 diabetes. And it was devastating to my mom. My mom is the youngest of 5 siblings. And she decided to become a nurse. Now, there are a whole lot of issues with that because at the time, my mother was born in 1933. Her brothers were the caretakers of the estate, and they were thinking, if you become a nurse, she wanted to go off to London to nursing school. If you become a nurse, you would have to see naked people. But she was a feisty little something, and she went to England. She became a nurse. And when she found out that you do not have to die of type 2 diabetes, it is manageable, it is preventable, she was gutted because she had watched her mother die of type 2 diabetes. And she said something that has rung with me for all of my life, and that is this. She said, I will never let a person die of a preventable disease if I can help it. She went from England, married an American, moved to the United States, and became a doctor. She wasn't satisfied with being talked down to by these docs in America. And she really took it as a crusade. And the way that she did medicine was she was always like a health coach. Like, you know what health coaches are today. They didn't exist back then, but that's what she did. And I really see the way that she transformed lives as a part of her service. And she said the same thing too. I'll tell you that story a little bit later. But knowing that my mom really took it on as, a bit of a crusade is what motivates me to really think through, like, you know what, this is not about my ego. And definitely, if I've got some issues kind of lingering and hanging around, it's up to me to get past them because there are people that need help. And so I just want to invite you to think of it in that way as well, because this is the second key to really making sales a little less stressful. Now, key number 3 is really looking at how you can create an experience of value in your potential customer's mind. And yes, this one as well also requires a shift in perspective. I want you to shift into value-based offers, where you highlight the outcome through storytelling. Now, if you think back to when we did the deep dives looking at your RSVP, so if you haven't seen those, definitely check out deep dive number 1 and number 2, where we look at your ideal customer and we look at your talents and we look at the results that you provide. And if you can focus on the value that you provide, the outcomes, and tell stories about it, it won't have to feel like a sleazy, slimy sales conversation. Because the biggest mistake that I see people doing is charging a price based on time, trading time for dollars, dollars for time, instead of basing your price on the value of the outcome or the experience. Now, people may decide based on emotion, but they're always going to back it up with logic. They don't buy based on price alone, unless they're just really broke and they're competing on price is never where you want to be. Because especially if you're trying to lower your price, cheaper from a psychological perspective often means that it's less valuable. So you definitely don't want to only price based on what can be lower than other people in the marketplace. And I had a situation happen with one of my European clients where someone came up to me and they said, "Oh my gosh, you know that speaker over there that's on before you? They have the same program as you, but it's less money." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's all good." And sure enough, one of our luminaries bought the program from this individual. And it was very, very expensive in terms of, the average coaching programs these days start around $2,000 and they go up. So it was up there, and only to find out that several months later, it was a complete shambles. She didn't get any of the value, and in fact, the individual basically didn't refund the money and didn't provide the value. And so sometimes people think that they're going to get a better deal just based on price, but it could be what's actually hurting you. All right? So I want you to have these shifts. Now get your worksheet out, because we're going to be going through each of the pieces of this sales conversation next. All right? So I want to just recap for you. Key number 1, a sales offer is an invitation. So I want you to shift your perspective. Instead of pushing features, instead I want you to think of inviting people to imagine themselves, invite people to see themselves, tell a story about the success that you can create where they can imagine themselves 100% working with you and getting that result. The very same thing happened to me when I was, Shireen, at Expert Empires in the UK. This is when I was headlining with Gary Vee and Ryan Dice and Nick James. And they said at this event, at Expert Empires, you were not allowed to do sales on stage. So I had to focus on storytelling and lead with examples that people in the audience could relate to. And I used, as I mentioned before, I used language so that my ideal customer would be able to pick up on whether or not I would be a good fit for them. And that is when I met YVETTE Taylor. YVETTE Taylor really resonated with my story because she, as a health professional, she was doing acupuncture, she had a health business, a physical business, and then she became a mentor, teaching the energy alignment method. And one of the things that she did when she joined our Global Luminary Academy is we helped her publish her first book, which shot up to #1 on Amazon and allowed her to bond with one of the superstars in the space, Bruce Lipton. But by her seeing my example on stage at Expert Empires, she knew that this was something that she could envision for herself. And she also mentioned that on her vision board, she had this image of speaking outside of the UK. She was already doing great in the UK and wanted to go beyond, and I helped her do that as well. This is her speaking on stage in Alicante, Spain at ETTG. So this gives you just a little bit of a sense for the way that we can have these conversations, even without being super salesy or slimy. And Shireen, you were there. Was I salesy? Was I slimy? I don't think so. You can tell me, of course, if you feel differently. So it's really important that we just focus on this idea of helping people get this idea of what's possible. Now, when I was speaking in Denmark at an event called Elevate, I was allowed to sell from stage because we had a deal to split the profits. And when I was on stage, I explained exactly how I work with clients, and I gave some success stories, and I gave the people in the audience an idea of what it would be like to work with me. And then, some of you may know this lovely being. Let's see, where am I? I'm going to show you one of the people who saw me on stage at Elevate and was inspired to work with me is Helena Philipson. So when Helena came, she was very unclear about her message. She knew she wanted to launch her English website. This is the before and this is the after. Like, we took her to being more authentic, really more outside the box, but really tuned in to her authentic brand. And that's a picture when she came to Cannes on the beach. And so just showing her what was possible, she joined our Authentic Authority bootcamp, came to Cannes, worked with me, and infused her authentic brand into this new website. She has since morphed and evolved even more, and we also helped her get published. So her first co-authored book was Time to Rise, which is a book that I published at Make Your Mark Global. We also published her free ebook. She started hosting online summits. She became a co-host for a radio show, and then there she is on the TEDx stage. She came here to Cannes as part of our TEDx prep, and she got her own TED Talk. And so this is just to give you a little bit of a taste of what is possible. And does that feel like it resonates with you? Does it seem like I'm bragging? I'm going to take a quick check into the comments here. Type in the chat. Does it seem like I'm being a show-off by telling you some of the success that I've had? Or is it helping you imagine a future? So once I could show people what was possible, most people find that it relieves their fears and their doubts. They know that they're going to have my support all along the way. And that's awesome, right? I mean, so can you see how easy it is to quickly grow when you have the right support and the right success path? And for those of you who don't yet have clients, you don't have testimonials and things like that, don't worry. You can use yourself. Just like I did when I first started speaking here in Europe. I hadn't worked with anyone in Europe, so I used my own success story to show people how I got on TV, on radio, got book deals, and all of that. So, all right, I'm looking at your comments. Yes, this is true. Natasha says it sounds terrific, very authentic. Anna says inspirational stories, beautiful, love it, all fine, even in Germany, Frank. And Fatima definitely makes me imagine. Awesome. So good. So most of you are saying this doesn't sound like I'm bragging or showing off. It's all about helping you envision what is possible, feeling more energized. And yes, Kylan says it's definitely helping me feel inspired about what is possible. It doesn't feel braggy at all. Excellent. So now you've proven it to yourself. Awesome. I love it. And Dion, the womanologist. What's up, lady in the UK? Good to see you. Just honest and elegant. Fabulous. Good. Well, that is absolutely what I'm all about. Storytelling and experiences move people. Absolutely they do, Shireen. And I'm glad that my presentation was soothing at Expert Empires compared to some of the other energy that was there that day. Awesome. All right, well, that was indeed my intention, was to come from the heart, but to connect with people who might actually want to work with me. All right, so let's get back to our summary of our keys to transformation. So key number 2 was a commitment to serve and transform. You're committed to transforming others. You also stay in that commitment to transform yourself. Putting shyness, putting away that fear of judgment, focusing on your mission. That's what it's about. And I always say, only focus on the stuff that you've actually healed, meaning share it in a small group if you're sharing about your own story, to make sure you're not going to fall apart, or you don't want to put your inner child in such a vulnerable position that you break down. But for me, I happen to be very comfortable sharing the fact that I had postpartum depression, and I got treated for it. It helped me immensely to understand what was going on with my brain. And I actually was on Facebook 3 years ago, and I just happened to mention something about postpartum depression, and I had people watching, as some of you are watching here, and I happened to share that I had a program coming up, and someone commented, and it was Jill Stalker, and I said, "Oh, hey Jill, I love the work that you're doing there." I knew she was doing the same kind of medicine that I practice, which is age management medicine. And she told me, she was like, "Whoa, it was a thrill to be, called out, and you said hello," but also she was like, "I related to your story so much." But she said, "I never would imagine that a doctor would open up about depression." And she has opened up about her story as well. In fact, she is published in 3 of our books, Time to Rise and Life After Trauma, or 2 of our books. And she, through coming through one of our retreats in France, coming through our media success program, she got that same confidence to move beyond fear and recognize that this is service. And she's so out of the box that then she started doing lives on Instagram and Facebook. She got her own show called Mommy Talk Live, and she's also featured in our upcoming documentary film about resilience. So that is all what is possible. So key number 3 is to remember that we're shifting our perspective and we're looking at a sales offer as an experience of value. If you can add value to someone else's life and tell them a story about how you get there, then it doesn't have to be an icky, disgusting experience. Now, I mentioned that when I was in Spain, the first time I went to Alicante was just before Expert Empires. And once again, I was told that I could not sell from stage. And so I respected that. I did not sell. I did not, say, "Come to the back of the room with your credit card and join my program." But what I had to do was, again, paint a picture of what is possible. And I showed people how going through the 5 stages of growth that I shared with you on day 1 of these deep dives, I showed people how they could become more of a global luminary, stepping out into the global stage. And I shared examples of how to do that. And voila. So I shared with people how they could do this and feel empowered in a way that was authentic to me. And lo and behold, I was approached by this lovely woman, GITTE GRAUGAARD. She is from Denmark. She is an author, a speaker, a meditation teacher. Looks like the word teacher is missing. But she is, at the time when she saw me in Alicante, I showed her book the other day. I'm wired, so I can't get it now. But I can show it to you here. So when she first met me, she said, look, I've published this book, The Children's Meditations in My Heart. She'd sold 10,000 copies in Denmark alone. And she said, how do I get to 100,000? Now, how did she know I could get her there? Because of the stories I told on stage. I wasn't selling anything, but she could imagine that. And instantly I said, okay. She pulled out her iPad and showed me her website, and she was nowhere to be found. It was all about the book. And I said, you're going to have to come out of hiding and become a personal brand, become visible so that people know the messenger behind these books. So she ended up co-authoring 3 books in English. 2 of them were with me and 1 with the beautiful Chrysula out of the UK. So she co-authored these books, stepping forward as a personal brand to explain how she uses creativity, to explain her own process of stepping in as this heroic author and meditation teacher. She was able to appear on American radio. She also came through my media success program, and she became an expert on online summits, getting all sorts of visibility outside of Denmark. And I even featured her on my podcast as well, so that she could have even more visibility in the global atmosphere. And then I felt that she was ready. She wasn't sure that she was ready, but I invited her to submit an application for a TED Talk. And then, sure enough, just as the iPad decides to die, well, you can see this picture of her there. Oops, no, you can't. Sorry, guys. iPad is not happy today. You can see that she is there on the TEDx stage. So all things are possible if you will but believe. All right? So now I want you to go to your worksheet. The PDF that came with your links when you joined the program, that's where I want you to go now. All right? What we're going to work on next, if you've been following along, all of it is fill in the blank. All of the answers are being said, and you can write them down. So let's go to the page about summarizing your customer profile. So if you did this on day 2 of our deep dives, then you should be pretty far ahead. What we're going to do is look at the aspects of your ideal customer, right? So my ideal client is fill in the blank. I will use myself as an example. My ideal client is a man or woman, usually over 30, who has some professional background that they want to translate into a global impact through writing, through speaking, or through coaching. My ideal client says, sorry, I'm trying to look at the same worksheet as you, that they have the following problems. So my ideal client typically has a sense of overwhelm. They want to go global. They want to get their message out there, but they don't know how. They have an idea for a book, but they can't seem to calm down the scatterbrain. Or they want to start a new business or coaching practice, but they're like, what do I do first? Or they've already gotten some success, like GITTE had, but they didn't know how to break beyond that certain level into the global atmosphere. They didn't know how to market. So those are some of the problems that my ideal client has. So on your sheet, write down what are the problems that they have. So you might say right now, they want to be what? My clients want to be freed of trading dollars for hours, trading hours for dollars. My clients want to be recognized just by their name or their face. My clients want to be 6- and 7-figure earning personal brands. They want to have a fully staffed business so that they don't have to worry about marketing and social media. My clients want to have books and products out there generating passive income. So do this for yourself, fill in the blanks. They want to get rid of. What are the problems that your clients want to get rid of? My clients want to get rid of confusion. They want to get rid of wearing too many hats in their business, where they are doing the marketing and the emailing and the this and the this and the this. They want to get rid of overwhelm. All right? So if you looked at what do they want to have and what do they want to get rid of, then when you interact with a potential client, how does it make you feel? When you hear that they're suffering, how does it make you feel? So fill in the blank on the worksheet. For me, when I see some of these emerging luminaries pulling their hair out, or they've spent thousands with different coaches, different systems, and they've gotten nowhere, it makes me feel so sad. I feel frustrated. And my compassionate heart just says, oh my gosh, I know that I can help decrease the overwhelm and confusion. I know, and I have experienced the joy of getting my work out there to a global audience. Does that make sense? So write down, how does it make you feel and why? And you'll see in the sheet, it's because you have some expertise or some experience. Now, remember when we asked what were the competitors in the landscape during deep dive number 2? What have your clients tried before? So my clients have tried hiring coaches. They've tried doing it all of themselves. They have tried launching summits. They've tried hosting webinars. So you write down all the things that people have tried that may not have worked, or maybe gave them some success, but not the overwhelming success. And they've spent. How much do people on average spend before they get to you? Now, if you have not yet been coaching or teaching or healing or whatever it is, your thing, then use yourself. You know how many hours and how many dollars, euros, kroner, or pounds you've already spent. So you can use yourself as the model. And for most of us, we often are in business, especially in the transformational space, because we've just come through the exact transformation that we're now empowering others. So you can use yourself as an example there. What blocks them from achieving their goals? Write down what the blocks are. Because as I said, for my case, I can teach you how to get on TV or how to get a TED Talk. Obviously, you've seen my success stories, but there may be a block in you. And I might have to help you overcome that block before you can get success. So write down all of the blocks that may prevent somebody from achieving success with you. It may be that you are not the one to fix those blocks. You might partner with someone else, and that's totally fine, but you still want to know them so that you can speak to people in a language where they're like, oh my gosh, you totally know me. And what do they really need? What do they really need if they're going to have success? And I've given you 3 blanks. For me, they really need a clear brand identity. If you're going to succeed as a global luminary, you're going to need a well-defined niche. And I believe you need your own signature speech, signature course, your own IP, your intellectual property. So when you can write this down, people really need A and B and C. And that's why I created you see how this is becoming a little script? You created your program, your product, your book, your course, your coaching based on your experience with. So for those of you who don't have this in front of you, you'll want to fill in your experience. Could be your background, your expertise, your personal experience. And in what period of time? It could be steps. In 5 simple steps, they can achieve the exciting outcome and be free of the pain that they want to get rid of. All right? Does this make sense? Do you see how it is a little bit easier to focus on filling in the blanks, making it an easy sort of story? Yeah? So I'm going to give you an example. Would you like to see an example of how this works in real time? First, I'm going to have a quick look at your questions. Okay, so Frank asks, who has time to listen to a story? I have the feeling that most people are in a rush. Well, if you become really good at storytelling, ideally, one of the things that I invite you to do is create your elevator pitch that you could deliver in 30 seconds. So have you ever heard this idea of the elevator pitch, Frank? So if you can imagine that you're at an event and there's many people that are your ideal customer, and maybe there was somebody speaking at this event on the mic and they were talking about their problems, and you're sitting there in the audience going, I know I could help them. Oh, I could help them. I could help them. Or my book or my product or whatever. And after the event takes a break, you go to the elevator, you're going to go up to your room, and there they are, standing right next to you. You've got 30 seconds to share with them, to maybe get their business card or give them yours, make a connection in 30 seconds. So yes, it's true, Frank, maybe people are in a rush. If you will follow this guideline, then you could very easily say, hey, I heard you up on the mic. I was really touched because I've actually had experience just like that. And in fact, that's why I currently offer the product that I offer. You'd be saying it more specific. You don't just say it like that. So for example, if I happen to hear someone saying, oh my God, I've been sitting on this book idea for the last 3 years. I've just got to get it done. If I had very little time, I'd say, oh, I heard you sharing about wanting to get a book done. Wow, I can totally relate. My book that I wrote, The Orgasm Prescription for Women, I was sitting on that idea for nearly 10 years. But I just made a few shifts to my mindset, and I was able to get it out, and it became a #1 international bestseller. And I've created a whole system called the MVP publishing process. If you're ever interested, I have a free little webinar. Here's my card, or here's my website. Now, that's a very short story, 30 seconds or less. And so if you can speak those words and create that resonance, it's not really a sales pitch, it's just engagement. But all of those other things that I've shared with you so far, they're very short. I mean, you can do this in 2 minutes. So the idea is to pique their curiosity, get them interested, so they're leaning in and asking you for more information, or they're asking you for your card or your website or your email so they can follow up. Does that make sense? So if you join us in the Authentic Personal Branding Bootcamp, I give you all of this. It's a very easy way for you to figure out how to describe who you are, what you do, what makes you unique. And it's the same kind of scripts and worksheets. All right, is this making sense, folks? All right, so go back to the worksheet, and I'm going to share something else with you. I'm going to share. So now we're going to go on to the promises part of the worksheet. All right. So think about what sort of transformation you can enable for people. People buy transformation. People don't buy features. So it's a little different. If you were selling a car, people would pay more for certain features, like air conditioning and, seat warmers. Like there's certain features for a car that make it more attractive. But when we are offering our services, people generally aren't buying because, oh, I get 12 hours of watching a course. No, what we want is the transformation. So think about the transformation that working with you, reading your book, listening to your music, doing that course with you, whatever your product is, what is the transformation that you can enable? So remember we said key #1 is about making an invitation. And the way I do this is I call it the 1 Big Promise and 3 Secrets. This is adapted from the book called Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. I really like the way that he teaches, and it fits with me on a psychological and spiritual level. So typically what we're looking at is we're coming up with one big promise. What are people going to get out of working with you? What is that big outcome? And then you look at what are their 3 biggest objections. Because people are always going to have an objection, right? They're going to have some reason that they say your program won't work. Like, oh, being on Zoom, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I get too tired, my eyes hurt, I can't do a Zoom course. Or they'll have some objection to the format that you are putting out there. They'll also have a second objection about themselves, about why they won't be able to get success. So make a list on the worksheet, make a list of the objections. What are all the reasons why people would say no? Why would they say no to your particular program that's based on the format or the style? What would they complain about? What excuses would they make about themselves? Oh, I don't have time, I don't have money, I'm not good at that. Write down whatever objections about themselves. And then there's typically an external objection. Like, oh, if I go on another diet, my partner is going to sabotage and bring home donuts. Whatever. There's always some external reason why it won't work. Oh, you say that I could write a book, but there's already so many books out there, and that's an external objection. When you can pick the 3 biggest objections, one about the person, one about your program, and one about the external forces, then what you want to do, if you're willing to do webinars, which you could kind of consider this a webinar, although it's live, you could create a masterclass, a webinar, or a conversation that's about taking people through each of these secrets. Now, I keep calling them keys. In his book, Expert Secrets and Traffic Secrets, and what's the other secret book he has? There's a third. He calls them secrets. I call them keys, and because they're really just unlocking things for you. But those 3 biggest objections become the keys. And what you want to do is make sure that you are overcoming those objections with the secret that you're providing. And I'm going to demonstrate this because I think it'll make it easier. So you might want to say it's 3 secrets to do X without Y. This is a very, very common way of seeing sales stuff. You'll probably start seeing this everywhere else now that you're aware of it. You know, 3 keys to lose 20 pounds in 8 weeks without counting carbs, for example. So if you look psychologically, people don't want more than 5 steps or 5 keys because we can't hold them in our minds unless we're really engaged or paying money. So I typically rely on 3s, although everything else I do comes to me in 5s, like my books, there's 5 steps and 5 this. But just for the ease of having a conversation, look at doing it with 3s, okay? Any questions about this at this point? Any questions? So, what else did I want to add here? So I'm going to give you an example, all right? Last year, I decided to create a program, how to create and launch your brand or product in 90 days or less without hiring staff or losing your mind, right? And what I then did was came up with 3 keys based on what I know people struggle with, all right? Like I know that there are going to be some struggles. And so 3 keys, there are 3 keys to successfully launching. Key number 1 is work with a mentor. And for me, I know that there's this objection, like, oh, I already know this stuff. Or, oh, I tried, you know, the product launch method by what's his face, Jeff, I can't remember his name right now. Oh, but it was so over my head. And that's why the first key, in my opinion, is to work with a mentor, right? Key number 2, work with an accountability group. So a lot of people who've already tried to launch they lose their mojo. They get something done and then they either fall back into fear or overwhelm, like something overtakes them, they lose their mojo, they lose their energy. If you work in a group, if you work with an accountability partner or a buddy who can be with you through that period, inviting in God and the angels if you need it as well, so that you don't allow yourself to get stuck. This is what has helped me build, the empire that I have. And then the third key to a successful launch is to follow a success path. Now, people will say to me, Andrea, there are cheaper programs out there teaching what you teach. There's DIY programs, you can do it. But if you're not actually following a path of success, you're following someone else's model that fit them but doesn't fit you, then I know that that is one of the things that will lead to potential failure. Is this making sense? I'm going to check in with you to find out if you have any questions. So this is what you're going to do in your worksheet. You're going to write down these objections and just brainstorm. And if you'd like to join us in the Personal Branding Bootcamp, I can answer some questions there live. February 24th, we have a free session. And yeah, happy to answer. Karina, I'm curious to know, what was I saying for you to say preach? Oh, very good. All right, so Matilda, what if the client knows that they have a problem, they want you to fix, but they lack the motivation and they have no time? So I would invite you to watch deep dive number 2, where we asked about the good apples versus the bad apples. What are the kind of people you want to work with? If the person has no motivation, do you still want to work with them? If the person says they have no time, is that someone you want to work with? If it is, then what you need to build into your program is the secret sauce to overcome those objections. So in other words, you'll have to build into whatever you're selling something that gives them motivation. If they lack it and you're willing to provide it, then include it in your program. If they have no time, then you're going to have to show them how you're going to save them time. All right? Now, in my case, if someone has no motivation, when I'm on stage and on video, I am your motivational speaker. When I'm working one-on-one, I need someone to already have the willingness. I can coach and motivate and inspire, but if they came to me and they had no motivation, that wouldn't be for me. So I'm just saying that for you to think through, is that the kind of person you want to work with? Because you may want to say, no, I want to work with people who are motivated. They may be stuck for various reasons, but they're motivated to get past their internal blocks, to get past fear, whatever it is. So think that one through. All right? Okay, so I don't see any new questions coming in. All right, so now I want to talk to you about something called the sales stack. This is something that has actually really, really transformed the way I do business. And this is, again, something that I learned from Russell Brunson, reading his book, Expert Secrets, and watching his videos of how he does this. And so, yeah, if you're following along in the worksheet, we're going to talk about the sales stack. And what it is essentially you're just going to give people all of the components that are included in your program and tell them what the value of each of the components is, and ideally you'll also include some bonuses and you'll tell them what the value of the bonuses are, and then you want to tell them what the actual price is. So you tell them what the value is, but then you're going to tell them what the actual price that you're charging them is. So I'm going to give you an example of how I did exactly that. All right? This was something that I did last year because of COVID. I wanted to help out some people launch their product. So we launched this group synergy coaching program. And in that program, they got 3 private sessions with me, and that is a value of $1,500. They also got 3 group trainings with me, the value being $750. They got lifetime access to the 10-day personal branding bootcamp, which is valued at $197. Then they got 3 months of group follow-up, and the value of that is $750. So if you look at the total value of everything they got from my time, the group sessions, the boot camp, the follow-up, the total value for our 3-month Synergy coaching program was $3,197. And so last year, because I wanted to give people a boost, I included some bonuses. And so the bonuses included newsletter templates, because some people don't know how to, how do you write an email sequence? So I included that, and the value was $1,200. We gave them scripts for products and how to do webinars and offers, and that was valued at $800. I gave them access to Stories with Soul, which last year the value was $250. This year it's a little more expensive because we've got a greater demand. So Stories with Soul is a 2-day life writing workshop for authors, speakers, aspiring authors, and people who just want to heal their own story. In the group Synergy program, we also included 3 months of additional feedback because we found out that people didn't want just 3 months. So that was an additional $1,500. So the total value of just the bonuses was $3,750. And so if you looked at all of the stuff that I was giving them, plus the bonuses, the total value was $6,947. So when you're doing this, you're of course going to let people know, don't worry, I'm not about to charge you $6,000 or $7,000 for this. Instead, last year we offered it for $888. So this value stack is a way that a lot of people are, you'll see people doing it. Now, there are definitely people doing this and they have no integrity, like they're hyping up the value of stuff. I don't believe you should do that. I think you should be 100% honest about the value that you provide. Obviously, your bonuses are going to have to be relevant to the problem that you solve or the next problem in line for them. But that is how the value stack works. And then if you can do it in this sort of way, it makes people feel like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. This 3-month process that's worth $6,000 I'm getting for $888, I want that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Thank you, Gaga. Great examples, great mentor. I'm very happy to know that. Awesome. So Shireen, I understand you're inspired. You're knowing objections, offering solution for overcoming. Yes. So this is what you want to do. If you will do these worksheets, I promise you, just do the work. It will come so much easier to you when you actually have someone to talk to. For all of my authors, all of my luminaries, I get them to tell me stories about their own life, about working with clients or other case studies, so that they're really top of mind. And you can make them in 60 seconds, or they could be 6 minutes, or it could be an 18-minute TED Talk. You need to get used to doing it in whatever time span is available. So for those of you who think you might want to learn how to tell good stories, Stories with Soul is coming up on March 20th. March 20th and 21st. It is a 2-day live training with me where we go through the hero's journey. We go through how to write and tell stories from your heart and your soul using the hero's journey and also affecting the neuro side of things so that you're bypassing people's filters. Stories with Soul is in March, and it includes those 2 days live with me. Usually we do it in France, so people have flown here and gotten the 2-day workshop, and then we continue it with additional weeks so that you go off, you write, you come back, you get more feedback on your writing and your storytelling. So if that is of interest, you can stay tuned. That is coming next month. All right? So awesome. So that is what we're doing here with this whole stack situation and helping you. So when are you going to implement this? Who is going to take up the challenge and do something with this? That's what I want to know. And Shireen is asking, in the value stack, how important is it for clients to see where they can buy each program and bonus. It's not necessary. You don't necessarily have to have all of the bonuses like on your website so that they could see that's what it was. You can simply communicate that to them. That each piece, because some of the work you've done in person, you can definitely just say, you know, I'm offering this, the value is X. I'm offering this, the value is Y. They don't necessarily need to go clicking around to find each one. If you've established that trust, then they're trusting you. And again, this is for all of my high vibe, high integrity people out there, right? So good. So I'm so happy to know that this is helpful. I'm glad that these strategies have got you motivated. Awesome, awesome, awesome sauce. So I will stick around for a couple more questions about this irresistible sales offer. Do you see how just with a little bit of practice, this can be something that is super easy for you? Well, I'm going to give you one more example of someone who achieved great success that even surprised him, believe it or not. And some of you may know this guy, Rob Goddard. He came to my event in London called Speak from the Heart, and he said he wanted to share his story with the world. So back in 2008, with the crash of the market, Rob lost everything. He lost his job, his income, his status. He lost his wife, his connection to his children. He was gutted. And he fell into a serious depression, went to a doctor, and they put him on antidepressants. And filling out the little questionnaire, it asked, have you thought of harming yourself? And he checked yes. And even having admitted to having suicidal thoughts, the doctor gave him a prescription and said, somebody will call you from the suicide outreach. Well, nobody ever called. A couple years later, he went off to Dubai and intended to end his life. He went up to the 152nd floor of the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, and he intended to jump. And it's pretty emotional. Obviously, he's still here today, thankfully. After coming to stories with Speak from the Heart, where he shared his story on stage, there was not a dry eye in the room. And he shared his story in Life After Trauma. He's also shared his story in the top 10 traits of highly resilient people. But with my urging, he brought out a book that he published once, but we got it dusted up and improved it. It's called Suicide to Success. And it debuted at number 4 when it came out on Amazon. And it got him on BBC Radio, as you see here. Suicide to Success. And now he is in our upcoming documentary about the top 10 traits of resilience. And so these are the things that are possible when we own our story, when we own our voice, when we're committed to transformation. Like, it can be really, really scary, but the number of people that you touch and the lives that you could potentially save, it's worth it, my friends. It is so, so worth it. So thank you for joining me on this journey of 6 days of deep dives. What a whirlwind, right? Kim, do you have to provide examples of when you applied the bonuses to add value? Not necessarily. Depends on how long your sales conversation is. If you're doing this on a webinar, or you might have the time to do that, but not necessarily. I would always write down a little story about each of the things that you've helped people do. Just like I shared, that was less than 2 minutes sharing Rob's story. And again, all I'm just telling you is I was nudging him, teaching him, coaching him, and you see the outcome. Very, very short. So, all right, so this is it, my friends. We have come to the end of our 6 days of deep dive live training. I so appreciate you tuning in for each of these days. If you're watching on the replay, I appreciate you as well. If you've got questions about any of these things, then definitely come and check me out at makeyourmarkglobal.com. At Make Your Mark Global, you'll learn about all of our other programs and products, including the Authentic Personal Branding Bootcamp. The Personal Branding Bootcamp is a 10-day online course. You have access to it for life, but if you do it in 10 days, as I've been urging you, you can actually make so much progress on identifying your USP, defining your brand, identifying your ideal customer, getting all sorts of worksheets so that you can come up with your own brand image and brand dictionary. So join us for the Authentic Personal Branding Bootcamp. It's still on sale for the COVID price of only $44. But if you want a taste, if you're not ready to jump in, you can come to a taster session for free on February 24th. Just visit my website, makeyourmarkglobal.com, and you'll get the details on how to join us there. We do that privately on Zoom so that you can ask questions. We can give you feedback on your website or your copy or whatever. All right? So very, very happy to have had this time with you. I am so grateful that you've allowed me to serve part of my life purpose, which is to uplift, inspire, and bring forth the new generation of light workers and conscious entrepreneurs. So thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Shireen. Kim, very excited that you're joining us for boot camp. Natasha, have a great rest of your weekend. Shireen, so grateful for your feedback as always. Yeah, thank you. Just keep coming back, keep doing the work. So if you would like to binge on any more nerdy content by me, then I want to remind you to check out the Conscious Branding Podcast. The Conscious Branding Podcast can be found on YouTube. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And I'd love it if you would please subscribe, rate, review the podcast wherever it is that you happen to watch on. All right? There's tons. There are literally hours and hours and hours of content for you. I put it all out there for free so that there's no excuse. You've got everything you need to make it happen. All right? So until we meet again, my friend, please remember that you are a gift to this world. I believe in you. So share your presence with passion. Much love, everyone. Take good care.